you can think of this as really either build it. You can build the system because you can, from scratch, you can just write maybe TensorFlow code, and then you can train a model. That's one way. Another way is you can use either a downloaded model. So you can go through here and you can download. That's another way, and that would be the TF Lite model. And then yet another way would be to use AutoML. That's one way to train the model, and that can create TF Lite. And then the way we're going to talk about today is you can also just use a pre-trained API. So this is a little bit like the download method in that it lives somewhere up in the cloud, and then what you're doing is you're invoking the computer vision system and asking what kind of labels it can detect, and then you're going to put that into maybe your mobile device. So really there's, I would say, 4 common approaches here when you're building computer vision applications, where I think there's probably too many people focusing on only writing everything from scratch, but that's one approach. And then another one is you can download a model that already is trained and put that into an application. A third is you can use AutoML tools and you can train a model using the technology that can train a system by clicking a button, like Apple's CreateML or Google's AutoML. And then third, you can actually go through here and just use an API. So that's what we're going to cover today, is how to use an API to build computer vision systems. And so what I'm going to start with is I'm going to go to GitHub here, and I'm going to go to a new repository, and I'll go ahead and create one called, we'll call this Computer Vision API, and put a description. This is a repo for creating computer vision examples, and we can go ahead and add this README, add a git ignore, and I like to put a git ignore that says ignore certain aspects of Python files that we don't want to check in, and then I'll go ahead and create this repository. So this will be the repository that I'll use to build some things. And then the second thing that I'll open up here is that I'm going to open up AWS Cloud 9. So I'll go ahead and go to the console, and then I'm gonna sign into the console. So everything we're doing today you can do with the free tier account. Okay, so with AWS, there's a couple different ways to get started when you're writing code. One is that there is this Cloud Shell, which is a very interesting technology that I think is worth exploring. Another one is something called Cloud 9, which is slightly more of a rich environment. We'll go through and actually explore both. But even before we start, one of the things I want to take a look at is something called rekognition. And if we go to rekognition, you can see that this service is deep learning based visual analysis service. And in fact, these are all of the things that it can do by default. It can do object and scene detection. It can do image moderation. It can do facial analysis. It can do celebrity recognition, face comparison, text and image, PPE detection as well, which is pretty interesting. So let's go ahead and look at each one of these things here. So for demos, object and scene detection, notice that by default here, it's able to, in this picture, detect all the different objects that appear because it has a very sophisticated pre-trained model. So it sees the cars, it sees the automobiles, and if we select a different picture here, it can find a different city, and notice that it's able to find a city, buildings, high rises, and if we look at the response, this is what it would look like if you were calling it from an API. So this is a pretty powerful way to explore their capabilities, and then you can always go to, let's say, Google image search and just find maybe another picture, and we can go here and look at I don't know, how about San Francisco? Take a picture of that, and here's one from Wikipedia. We can go ahead and I can save this onto my desktop, and we'll call this San Francisco. And then if I go back here, I can go to this upload icon, select it, and then we'll see that it's able to detect that it's a panoramic picture, it's a landscape, it finds scenery, outdoors, buildings. So even though it's a little bit blurry even, it's still able to find all of that information. And again, it shows the probability of, or its confidence of what that image is in that scene. Same as well with image moderation, right? That it's able to do things like blurring content, or detecting if there's something that maybe should be moderated for, I don't know, for kids or something like this. It can show you that information as well. For facial analysis, it's able to detect faces and even the points on the face as well. So looks like a face, appears to be female, age range 21 to 33. So it even has age-based verification, age-based detection. So there's all these really powerful capabilities that they've got built in here that are really difficult. So let's take, for example, again, for image, who is a popular celebrity. I think it's the woman who is Captain Marvel. Her name, where is she? Captain Marvel. Let's look at her, or Captain America. Yeah, I forgot what her name is, but Marvel, or how about this? We'll say Marvel women characters. Let's find this one. I think this is one of them that we saw. I forgot what her name is, but let's download this, and we'll say save as, and then I'll go through here and we'll see if it can detect their ages and see if it's accurate. There we go. And it says, here we go, appears to be female. So I guess it's saying that all three potentially are between the ages of 20 to 32, and they even have different, what they do is in each particular image, they have the which location of the picture that it's in. They even have the emotions that they show. So like, here's the different landmarks. We could even make it a little bit better. If I go back to my image, I'm gonna actually crop it real quick. So I'm gonna open up a tool, and I'm gonna just crop just so that I see only the middle character here, and then I'm going to say tools, crop this. Okay, so what I'll do now is I'll upload a cropped version, and let's see if we can just focus on this character. So yeah, so it's assuming that she's between 22 and 34, which I'm assuming is correct. Looks like a face, appears to be calm, not wearing glasses, eyes are open. Anyway, lots of different metrics that we're able to get from this one as well. And then celebrity recognition, I guess we can use the same thing. This is Jeff Bezos, but let's go ahead and see if we can find who she is. And it says, yeah, Brie Larson, that's her name. So we're able to detect that she's a famous person as well, which is a pretty interesting capability. If you imagine how difficult it would be to train your own model that detected all celebrities would be very, very difficult. And then in terms of the text in image as well, it also has, their APIs have the ability to detect text or license plate numbers as well. We can do the same thing. We can say, license plate, I don't know, 1980 Datsun or something. Let's see if we can find some kind of a, here we go. Let's take this picture and let's save this onto the desktop, and then I'll also go through here and upload my own picture. There we go, buy it now. It's a very strange license plate now, late, but it's able to get pretty accurate. It missed a little bit here, but for the most part, it's even able to get very small text here as well. I guess I don't know why it wasn't able to get that one piece, but it basically it was able to get the entire license plate. And then I guess this is this must be a new one, is for personal protection equipment, persons with required equipment. So this thing is able to detect, for example, face cover, required confidence 80%. So this also could be really helpful in terms of building a system where, maybe the first system you're building is you want to verify that people are wearing a mask. So we could do the same thing. We could say hospital PPE, and then we have these workers. We'll go ahead and save this workers, and we go to this, we'll upload our own, and it's able to find that each of the persons that actually it's able to actually detect person detected, face detected, head detected, and I believe person with required equipment, IDs. Not sure how this one is. Oh, there we go. Face cover on nose, true. There we go. So we're able to detect that. But in general, I think these pre-trained APIs are a really good example of how you can use the existing technology to do something that may be very difficult to do initially on your own, just because of the labor involved. And so it's a good way to create the version 1 or prototype of a computer vision system by using these pre-trained APIs. Now, it's a little more difficult to do this only by clicking and dropping the images here. So now what we're going to get into is how do you start to build out a system that can take advantage of these APIs, build tools to build those, and then also build web services. So what I'm going to do next here is just talk about how to quickly build systems that are prototype tools. And in general, I think one of the ways that you can build something very, very quickly is by either using a command line tool. So we'll just say prototyping for computer vision, and prototyping. So it would be, one would be a CLI right here, and 2 would be maybe a serverless technology like a Lambda function, which we'll get into. These are probably 2 of the best ways to prototype. And with a command line tool in particular, really this is a speed and efficiency, I think, are 2 of the things that you get by using a command line tool. And then with serverless, the big advantage is that you can do event-based workflows. And so we'll cover both of those workflows. So to start with, I think what we need to do is get into the development environment. And as I mentioned before, there's a couple different development environments. Let me just show you a little bit first of the most simplistic one, which is Cloud Shell. If you click Cloud Shell here, it's a good way to just really quickly explore ideas. So if you don't want to set up a full, huge development environment, but you just want to execute little snippets of code, there are some really interesting things about Cloud Shell in that it really is a good spot to build out, experiments essentially. So we'll wait for this to load for a second. And what Cloud Shell is it's a shell that has already loaded all of the AWS technology inside of it. And so you don't have to install AWS SDK or play around with other things inside of AWS. It's all available for you right here in this Cloud Shell. And I believe as well, it also has the ability to upload and download files. And so there's definitely some really powerful things about using Cloud Shell. The one downside is that it does require that you have strong expertise with the Linux shell. And so in order to use it, you would need to use the terminal. You need to know how to use Vim. And I can just show a few of those commands real quick to get started. But this should take a second. Okay, there we go. Preparing the terminal. So when you first start in AWS Cloud Shell in particular, one of the things that I think surprises many people is, if you're not familiar with the terminal, is this whole section here is like, what is this? This is called the bash prompt. And notice even that it is got this word here called .venv. Now, why does it have this, and how did all this get generated? Well, I'm going to use an editor called Vim. If I type Vim like this, and if I type in tilde, which is right by the escape key underneath it, /.bashrc, this is the configuration file for the bash terminal. So this works on any cloud environment. If you edit the bashrc, you can tell it to basically remember commands, change the prompts, put aliases inside or shortcuts. And so if I go ahead and I put Vim right here, notice that you can see all the things that are happening in this shell environment. One of them is that the reason why it can do lots of powerful things is that it has these commands built in from the AWS environment. So we see here it says user local bin AWS completer. AWS has already put a bunch of things in here that are powerful. Now, what I did, this is a customization I did, is I said, this is my Python virtual environment, and this is a Python virtual environment is a tool that allows me to put all of my libraries in one spot. I told this to automatically activate this virtual environment every time I open up a shell. So this is just something to be aware of, is that if you are going to use maybe the same shell all the time to do things and test things out, this can be a great way to do it, is create a virtual environment in Python. And the way you would do that, I'll just put a comment. We won't do it because I've already had it here, but we'll say to create virtual environment. All I did was this. I said Python 3-m venv, and then I said tilde/.venv. So that's the command I created. And once you create it, then to source it, you do this command. And I just do this automatically every time I shell into this environment. Now, what does this get me? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at this. So if I go through here and I type in which Python, notice that it's now using the Python for the virtual environment. And again, the reason why this is so helpful is that then all the libraries will be in one spot, and I don't have to worry about that maybe it's using a library that the installation of AWS put there. I can really be specific about what I'm trying to do. So then what I would typically do if I was going to use this for prototyping is I would do maybe a pip install like this, and I would put the Amazon SDK. And in particular, Amazon has an SDK for Python called Boto 3. And if we type in pip install Boto 3, I can go ahead and install in there. And then the second thing I would install would be I would install something called Ipython. And what Ipython does is it allows me to have an interactive Python terminal. So Bash is an interactive shell terminal. Ipython is an interactive Python terminal. And if I do this, we can see this. And Ipython is similar to Jupyter Notebook. That's probably the best way to describe it, except for it's all terminal based. And now if I type in Ipython, we can see that I now get this nice prompt, and I can even say things like import Boto3. And Boto3 is the SDK for Python. There we go. So now I can start experimenting, building code. And this is a free tool. I'm not charged for it on AWS as well. So I don't have to spin up a virtual machine or anything. It's completely built in for me. So one of the things that we can do is if we go to the Boto3 documentation, if you just go to Boto3, the website, it has all the documentation for this. They have tons of different examples. One of the things that we could do is we could look at what all of the services, available services here, and you can see that I can programmatically control every single one of these services. Look at this amazing amount of services. What I'm going to look at first is I'm going to look at Amazon S3, which is their storage system. I'm going to click this, and then in order to make a call, you want to first create a client connection. So I'm going to click on this, and I can even just copy this. I can just copy this piece of code, go back to the Cloud Shell, and just paste it in, just like this. And once I have this instance set up, then we can do client dot like this. And when I did is I pressed the tab. And what's great about this is it shows me everything that the client can do. See all the different things it can do. Now let's go back to the documentation. It's all of these things. So it even just shows me all the documentation. And in fact, let's say that I want to look at one of these things like list, and if I can do a partial completion and then tab again, and it'll show me what things match this. Let's see list buckets, right? Like let me see all the folders essentially that are inside of the AWS system. If I type in buckets, right, again, it tab completes. I can even do question mark like this, and it will even show me the documentation for it. So we go here, look, it shows all the documentation, it shows me how to use it, what the response will be. And so really, if you're an expert at the terminal, you can basically just use a terminal to completely explore APIs, including computer vision APIs, AutoML APIs, everything on AWS, just inside of this one interface. So what I'm gonna do is just do this, list buckets, right? And if I click on list buckets, it lists all my buckets inside of AWS. So really, really powerful capability. Now, let me show you the command line version. I'm going to type in exit to get out. So how do I do the same thing from the AWS terminal? I can also just type in AWS, and notice that I think it's help will show me all of the different commands that are available. Notice that you can do all of the same things as well with just the regular terminal. There's a ton. It shows you every single service that you can interact with, right? You can see all these different services. So what I can do is I can also type in AWS S3 LS, and this is essentially the same command, right? Is list all the buckets that I have in my account. There we go. It lists all the buckets, and I don't even have to authenticate because I'm in this Cloud Shell environment. So for building, prototypes and testing out APIs, this is probably the quickest possible way to get started. Just click the shell, start running things. Now let's get a little bit more sophisticated here, and let's actually upload a file, right? Because remember, it can upload a file. So I'm going to grab one from my desktop. Let's grab the Marvel character maybe, and let's upload this here. There we go. You can see uploading file, right? And this is uploaded to home cloud user directory. And if I type in print working directory like this, print working directory shows me the location that I'm in. And then we can see that image is there. So we can actually, let me just change the name so it's smaller, so it's easier to work with. So in order to rename something from the terminal, you can type in MV, which stands for move, and a move will also rename a file. So I can go like this. I can type in O or 0, tab complete. There's another thing that's important to know is that experts in the terminal don't type a lot of commands. They typically will use tab to complete the commands. And this is a way to show that you're an expert. If I go here and I just type in Marvel like this, we can actually rename that long name to a short name. And then how do I see that it changed? I just type in ls. There we go. And now we see that it's now named. Now, if I want to see how big this file is, I also can do this. I can type in du, which stands for disk usage. And then I can go like this. And so these two flags are summarized in human readable form. This particular file, 56K. It shows me 56K. So now let's go back to what I was doing before with Ipython. Let's type in Ipython. And what I can do is I can again say import Bodo3. And let's actually make a variable that refers to this file, which I believe is, we can say image is equal to, and we could put in the full path, which would be home, Cloud Shell, user, and then we'll call this marvel.jpg, like this. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the rekognition API. We'll scroll down to this, and let's find this, and we do the same thing. So we'll do a client connection, and I'll go ahead and paste this in, make this client. And now let's use the service that can do the maybe the celebrity recognition. So let's notice that I can find all the available methods here to do things. And so I think, here we go, get celebrity information. What does this do? Gets the names and additional information about the celebrity. Oh, okay, this sounds pretty interesting. So I believe, how does this work? I think that, well, first let's try maybe the basic one, which I've done before. Gets the name of a celebrity. The additional is returned as a list of ID is string. I think I might need to first do the I think I first need to do let's look at one more of these. I think this takes detect image. So this one would be, it would look like this. Let's take one that's got a slightly simpler. Let's look at the labels actually. That's a slightly simpler one. So I'm going to go back up here and scroll up into, let's do this. Notice that a lot of these require, like, let's detect faces is probably a good one. That notice that they require they require you to give it a S3 bucket in some cases, and so this would potentially make things a little bit more complex. And so let's just see if we can find the detect labels here. And so in this particular example, it looks like it's going to need me to put this first inside of Amazon S3. So there's a couple ways that we could do this. One is that you could use, we could exit real quick, and we could actually move this file into a bucket. So first we would need to go to Amazon S3. So I'm going to type in the console here and go to, let's make it one more, AWS console. Let's open up another console, and I'm going to go to my S3 bucket, and I'm going to find one that looks useful. Like, for example, how about AWS ML guide? There's some stuff in here I can use. So what I'll do is I will copy from this environment that image that I was working with Marvel. So I can even do it from here. I think I can just say AWS S3 CP Marvel.jpg, and then I believe I can just type in like this command. If it's not correct, I'll just fix it. Does that work? There we go. So we copied it. Let's verify that that goes there. If I refresh this here, let's find this. There we go, Marvel. See? So we can see that this is here. So now that I've copied it into that location, I can go back to this terminal and type in Ipython again. Or actually, I think, yeah, I can type in Ipython again. And I can say the up arrow. By the way, the up arrow will remember the last commands. And so I can say import Boto3. I can make an instance of the client. And then I can say, I can actually put the new image will be this location, which should be, let's look at the API call here real quick. It says, yeah, all it needs is the bucket name and then the name of the image. And so I can basically just copy this. I think it's just S3 object is what it needs inside. So we'll kind of refer back to the S3 object, bucket, and name. So let's try this. So it will be client dot, and that API call was called detect labels. It was called detect labels. So go through here, detect labels, and then we can do a return, and it will kind of give us some space here to build this. And again, I believe we just need this. We just need image, so I can take this first part like that. And again, I can do a return. And then we can just say S3 objects, which again, I can nest inside of here. Let's do this, S3 object, return. And then we would put in the name of that object, which should be, let's look at this. It is bucket this. So the bucket will be, let me put this closer. So the bucket here, let's get rid of this. So the bucket would be called AWS ML guide, like that, and then comma, and then the name, which is this next one. Yeah, the name here would be this, and then we would put in marvel.jpg, I believe. Let's just double check though. Would be, yeah, marvel.jpg. We can just paste it in here. There we go. And I believe that's all I need to do. Close that one, right? And it shows it matches. And then close the outer as well. And then we also can close the parentheses. It looks like it matches. There we go. And we're able to detect that it's a female person, right? And we're able to make that API call. And in fact, you could even capture the result. If I do Control A and you scroll up here, we can say results is equal to. Control E will get you to the end. And then I can run it again. And now if I say results, I could even start to parse it, right? And get the different aspects of it and start to pull it out and play around with it. You know, for example, maybe just get the labels. So if I just type in results, labels like this, I could then get each one of the labels and maybe just get one of the labels like that. Costume, right? 99.9% accuracy. So I think this is a very good way to just get started. And if you're especially if you have some skills with the shell, it's a great way to explore their API and see what it is you want to do. And then once you've got something like this going, what you can do is actually either build command line tools inside of here, or you can go through and maybe build a shell script, or even programmatically control something all within this AWS Cloud Shell environment. So I think this is probably one of the preferred ways that I would recommend just starting out. And again, there's two methods here, right? Method one would be, and maybe I'll just put this inside of this directory. So, you know, to get started, you know, there's methods to explore. There's actually three. So the first method is use AWS rekognition console, right? So this is called the console, this thing right here, the rekognition console. That's one way to explore. The second is then use AWS Cloud Shell to call API. And then a third one would be Cloud Shell with the AWS command CLI, or Bodo 3 with Python. And then the third way, which is we'll get into in a little bit, maybe after we take a break, would be using the AWS Cloud 9 environment to build full command line tools and web services or serverless technology, right? So these are probably the ways to start. Now, one thing you can do that's kind of neat when you're building a portfolio type directory like this, what I like to do is I go to issues here and I create an issue and I just call it images, and then I can go to maybe this, right? I can build I can drag and drop something that shows a picture. Actually, let's take the one I did earlier, which was celebrity, which is more interesting. Let's grab this and let's grab Brie Larson here, right? And I can just see, I can take this picture, screenshot it like this. And then what's neat about this is I can actually click down here and I can take the screenshot and it will build out documentation for me. So we can say AWS celeb image. There we go. And I can copy like this, submit a new issue. And then if I want to put this into the documentation to make it look a little more exciting, methods to explore, you know, image recognition, recognition API, I can just do this, right? And then I can save it, and then it shows me the a little bit more, makes my documentation a little bit better. So whenever you're building a portfolio project, I think having little bits of images with the text, I think, can be helpful. And then the same thing, I can say with the Cloud Shell, right? I could even show a picture of this, right? Like we could show how you could do this, right? So I could just take a little bit of a picture that shows what it does here, and then I can just also take this, go into my issues section, and then drag that second screenshot, and this will just show, we'll call this the Bodo 3, right? So then I'm able to basically document each of the steps involved. So this was that section. There we go. Let's put this here. And then we'll put this rekognition console. We'll go here. And then maybe what I will show as well is with Cloud9, when we get to that, I'll put a little bit documentation on how to use Cloud9. So this might be a good spot to take like a 15-minute break. When we get back, what I'm going to do is then use another technology called AWS Cloud9. And what AWS Cloud9 is it's a more sophisticated development environment. And in fact, we can even maybe take a picture of it right now. You can see what it looks like here. And we'll build out more of like a software engineering environment for Cloud9 that you can even share with other people, share with people on your group projects. And we'll build out command line tools, and we'll also build out AWS Lambda services with this environment. So let's take like a very quick, like a 15-minute break here. We'll say Cloud9, and then come back at the top of the hour. So Eastern time potentially would be 9 a.m. Eastern time. So I'll go through here, put this into this. So I think these are good ways to add a little bit of context to what you're building, so people know what your tutorial is. So